Today, three things happen simultaneously that almost nobody is connecting. At 9:30 this morning, the Senate confirmed Kevin Warsh as the new chair of the Federal Reserve. Jerome Powell, who has run the most powerful financial institution in the world for the past 8 years, is out. Warsh is in. The person who controls the interest rate that determines the cost of every mortgage, every car loan, every credit card, every corporate bond, and every government borrowing decision in the United States. Changed today. At roughly the same time, the Producer Price Index for April was released. PPI, the measure of what businesses pay for the goods and services they use to make the things you buy. It came in at 6% annually. The estimate was 0.5% monthly. The actual number was 1.4% monthly. 3 times the estimate. The biggest wholesale price jump since 2022. And core PPI, excluding food and energy, came in at 1% for the month against an estimate of 0.3%. More than 3 times the estimate, meaning the inflation is not just energy. It is in the pipeline, working its way through the supply chain, heading towards you. And the 30-year Treasury yield crossed 5% for the first time since May 2025, which means the rate that determines what you pay for a 30-year fixed mortgage just hit a level that, 12 months ago, everyone assumed we were done with 3 things. One morning. And together they tell a story about where the next 12 months of your financial life are going that nobody is telling you clearly. So let me do it. Music, let's start with Warsh, because who chairs the Federal Reserve matters more to your financial life than almost any elected official in Washington. More than your senator, more than your congressperson, more, in many practical respects, than the president. Because the Fed chair sets the price of money, and the price of money determines the price of everything else. Jerome Powell was not universally loved, but he was predictable. He communicated clearly. He telegraphed his moves. He gave markets enough warning before every decision that the surprise factor was minimal. And despite enormous political pressure from the Trump administration, from Congress, from financial markets, he maintained the independence of the Fed with enough consistency that markets trusted the institution, even when they disagreed with its decisions. Kevin Warsh is different in ways that matter. Warsh was the youngest Fed governor in history when he was appointed in 2006 at age 35. He is a former Morgan Stanley investment banker. He is intellectually hawkish, meaning he is more inclined to fight inflation aggressively than to protect growth. He has been publicly critical of the quantitative easing programs that the Fed ran after 2008, arguing that they created asset price inflation and distorted markets in ways that compounded over time. He has argued for a more rules-based approach to monetary policy, less discretion, more formula. And here is the specific thing about Warsh that markets are processing today. He takes over at the exact moment when the case for raising rates, not cutting them, not holding them, actually raising them, is becoming the dominant view in the bond market. Yesterday, after the CPI came in at 3.8%, the probability of a rate hike by year end jumped to 30%. Today, after PPI came in at 3 times the estimate, that probability has moved higher. The 10-year Treasury yield hit 4.48%, its highest level of 2026. The 30-year crossed 5%. The bond market is telling you, in the clearest language it knows, that it believes the next move in rates is up, not down. Warsh inherits this environment. And unlike Powell, who spent years carefully managing the narrative toward eventual rate cuts, Warsh has given no indication that he views rate cuts as the natural direction of travel. He is the Fed chair the inflation data is calling for, which is not the Fed chair financial markets were priced for at the start of the year. Music. Now let's talk about PPI. Because PPI is the canary in the coal mine of inflation. And the canary just screamed. The Consumer Price Index, the CPI that came out yesterday at 3.8%, measures what consumers pay for finished goods and services. The Producer Price Index measures what businesses pay for the inputs that go into making those goods and services. And the relationship between the two is a pipeline. Whatever is happening in PPI today is, with a lag of 6 to 12 weeks, going to show up in CPI when PPI comes in at 1.4% monthly. 3 times the estimate. It means the businesses that make the things you buy just absorbed a cost shock. And businesses do not absorb cost shocks permanently. They pass them through to you in higher prices. Usually within 2 to 3 months, car PPI at 1% monthly again, more than 3 times the estimate, is the number that should concern everyone most, because core excludes food and energy, which means the cost pressures showing up in the pipeline are not just oil shock pass-through. They are broad-based. Tariff-related inflation is showing up in household furnishings, apparel, industrial goods. The Iran war is showing up in energy, and both are showing up in core producer prices simultaneously. What this means practically is that the May and June CPI numbers, which the Federal Reserve will have in hand when it makes its next policy decisions, are likely to be elevated. Not because the underlying trend is deteriorating, but because the pipeline is full. The costs that businesses absorbed in April are working their way toward consumer prices right now. Today, as you watch this video, the chief market strategist at Steward Partners put it directly this morning. If wholesale prices continue rising, the Fed may be forced to raise rates even as the economy softens. Not might, may be forced. Music and now the 30-year yield at 5%, because this is the number that hits you directly, not in some abstract macroeconomic sense, in your actual mortgage. The 30-year fixed mortgage rate tracks the 30-year Treasury yield with roughly a 2 percentage point spread. At 5% on the 30-year Treasury, you are looking at mortgage rates in the 6.8% to 7% range, not theoretical. CNBC reported this morning that mortgage rates have already jumped to their highest level since March on the combined pressure of the CPI and PPI reports 0.7% mortgages. On a $400 housing home, the approximate median home price in the United States, the difference between a 6% mortgage and a 7% mortgage is $266 per month. Over 30 years, that is $95,760 in additional interest payments. Not from a dramatic crash, not from a financial crisis, from a 1 percentage point increase driven by inflation data and a new Fed chair who is more hawkish than his predecessor. And here is the specific cruelty of this moment for the housing market. The buyers who have been waiting patiently for 2 years, watching rates, saving down payments, calculating affordability, have just watched their purchasing power get worse again. Not because home prices went up, because the monthly payment on the same home went up, because of PPI, because of CPI, because of Warsh, because of a 21-mile strip of water in the Persian Gulf. All of it connecting, all of it landing in the mortgage payment. Music, now let's talk about what is happening in China. Because Trump is there today with a delegation that includes NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang. And the China meeting is where the only realistic resolution to all of this actually lives. The Iran war is the root cause. The Strait of Hormuz closure is the mechanism. The oil shock is the result. The inflation is the consequence. And the Fed trap, where Warsh inherits an institution that cannot cut because inflation is rising and cannot easily raise because the economy is softening, is the endpoint of a chain that started on February 28th when the first strikes happened. The only clean exit from this chain is a diplomatic resolution that reopens the strait, brings oil back towards $75 or $80, cools inflation, and gives Warsh the room to manage monetary policy without having to choose between 2 bad options. And the Trump-Xi summit is where that resolution could be brokered. China is Iran's largest oil customer. China has enormous leverage over Iran's willingness to negotiate. And China has its own economic interests in ending the disruption. The IEA estimates that Asian demand destruction from the oil shock is running at 1.5 million barrels per day, an economic drag on China that Xi has every reason to want to end. But the reports from the meeting so far are not unambiguously optimistic. Trump said he plans to have a long talk with Xi about Iran, but downplayed the need for Beijing's help. Iran and the US remain far apart on the underlying terms of any deal. The formal ceasefire holds, but the strait remains selectively closed. Iran has retained the ability to condition tanker traffic as a negotiating tool and is using it. This is not a situation that resolves in a press conference. It is a situation that resolves through sustained diplomatic work over weeks or months. And in the meantime, in the weeks and months while that work is happening or not happening, PPI is at 6%, CPI is at 3.8% and rising. Warsh is at the Fed making decisions about whether to raise rates, and the 30-year Treasury is at 5%. Here is what I want you to understand about the combination of all of these things. Individually, each one of them is significant. A new hawkish Fed chair is significant. Hot PPI is significant. A 5% 30-year yield is significant. Together, they represent something more than the sum of their parts. They represent the moment when the financial conditions that markets have been assuming would eventually normalize. Rates coming down, inflation heading to 2%, the Fed getting back to cutting have been replaced by a genuinely different scenario. A scenario where the person running the Fed is more likely to raise rates than his predecessor, where the inflation pipeline is filling faster than the underlying numbers show, where the long end of the yield curve is pricing a future that looks more like 2023 than 2021, and where the diplomatic resolution that would change all of this is real but uncertain and measured in weeks at best. The S&P 500 closed at a new record yesterday. The Nasdaq made new highs today despite the PPI shock. Stock market investors are still pricing the optimistic scenario. Diplomatic resolution, inflation cooling, Warsh proving less hawkish than feared, the soft landing completing. The bond market is pricing something different. The bond market is pricing a scenario where things get harder before they get easier, where the 30-year at 5% is not the peak, but the floor, where Warsh, confronted with a PPI that came in 3 times the estimate on his first day on the job, concludes that the only credible response is tightening. Both of those scenarios cannot be correct simultaneously. And the last several times the stock market and the bond market have disagreed about the economic outlook. In 2007, in 2019, and 2021, the bond market was right. 3 things happened today. A new Fed chair who is more hawkish than markets expected. A wholesale inflation reading 3 times the estimate. A 30-year Treasury yield crossing 5% for the first time in a year. And President Trump is in China having a long talk about Iran. The next 60 days will tell you which market is right. So here is where I want to hear from you. Do you think the China summit produces the Iran resolution that breaks the inflation chain and gives Warsh room to manage without raising rates? Or do you think Warsh inherits an inflation problem that forces him to raise rates into a softening economy, and we find out the hard way what stagflation feels like in 2026? Drop it in the comments, because this one is genuinely on a knife edge, and I want to know where this audience lands.